Okay, so to start off, can you give your full name and date of birth?
Oh, okay. I am Lawrence James LeDoux, born on January 30th, 1941. Now, I don't know where the Lawrence came from. I know where the James came from because my father's father had a middle name of James. But Lawrence, they must have just pulled out of the sky. Albany is an old city. Even when I was growing up, it was old city. And we lived in the West End on 3rd Street. In our house, my father and mother, we had the downstairs, and over time, he fixed up the basement. Basements in those houses basically were dirt floors and whatever, and just a furnace down there. But he built a playroom down there, concrete floor, and fixed up the walls. The second floor was my Aunt Tess and Uncle Bill. My Aunt Tess was my father's sister. Our flat on the lower floor is probably only about maybe 1,000 square feet. 6 of us growing up or living there. My parents and 4 kids, 1 bathroom. The girls shared a bed in one room. My brother and I initially shared a bed when we were young in another room. And the bed reached from the headboard to the footboard, reached from one wall to the other wall. And then one side of the bed was against the third wall, and there was just about maybe 30 inches, 24 to 30 inches between the edge of the bed and the fourth wall. So it was very tight living. But when we got a little older, my father took and he remodeled that room and built in bunk beds. And I was the youngest, so I ended up at the top bunk bed. It really is, and that really makes me sad that I know so little about my parents. Other than the fact my father was absolutely one of the greatest men in the world as far as I was concerned. Uh, my mother was good. She was certainly a good mother, but she was the disciplinarian in the family. Now my father, if necessary, he would lay down the law, but she was the one that had that very strict upbringing, I guess, in the Polish household, and so that translated over to us. Anyway, okay, so after I finished high school, I wanted to go to Cornell University. I wanted to become a farmer, a modern day farmer.
Mm-hmm.
My father said no, he could not afford to send me to Cornell University. And anyway, my grades probably never get in, because I was in high school, I was maybe a C plus student. In college, I was maybe a B student.
Mm-hmm.
So he was probably right. And my father said, okay, engineering is the big thing. He said, you get education in engineering, and then when you make your mark, someday go out and become a gentleman farmer. Okay. I never got to that point. So I did that. Anyway, I took in mechanical technology was my curriculum that I had. Anyway, when she came out then the second time, and so I took her down to the postgraduate school, the officers club in the postgraduate school, because she needed to meet some guys. So, and how do you meet them? I said, okay. I said, we're going to go down to the PG school. We're going to go on into the bar. And I said, we'll sit there and talk a little bit at the bar.
Okay.
And I'm going to get up and I'm going to leave. And you got my name and my phone number. So you can give me a call. But I'll guarantee you, within 20 or 30 minutes, you're not going to be sitting here alone. And that's what happened. Some pilot come on over and started talking to her. Pilot by the name of Jim Carlson. Started talking to her, and one thing led to another, and as you know, ultimately at some point in time they got married and whatever. So over the course of my 3 years there as a production test pilot, I flew every single different P3 that was in the fleet, 254 different P3s, which I got to fly every single one of them. And all of a sudden, one of the enlisted guys in the back says, pilot, he said, you got smoke and flames coming out of the starboard engine. So we pilots and co-pilot with the president say, hey, a real emergency. At that time, bingo, the fire warning light on the port engine comes on.
Mm-hmm.
And we said, that dumb ninny back there, he doesn't know his right from his left. So we called back and said, hey, is it the starboard engine or is it the port engine? He said, well, it's the starboard, but just a minute, I'll take a look out the port. He said, you got smoke and flames coming out of the port engine also. So here we were just, San Francisco is right down there. I'm sure the people down there in the what do they call that district down there, where the piers are that they go. Anyway, I'm sure these people were looking up, seeing this airplane. It just went over Alcatraz and isn't quite to the bridge yet. Now I got smoke and flames coming out of both engines. So we said, hey, we got a real emergency. So we turned around, and of course we're close to Alameda, so we're going to go back into Alameda, fly into our normal pattern, and land. Okay, no problems. You know, the fire trucks are there, and they hose everything down, and so forth. So that was one incident. I one time walked in, and here, among other girls that were meeting, here was this girl down at the end, and I will tell you something that I've told her repeatedly over the years, and I don't think she believes it, but as soon as I saw my wife, Pat, which it wasn't my wife then, as soon as I saw Pat, before we were even introduced, it says to me, I said, there's the girl I'm going to marry, right, like that. So, when I went back down to Alameda on our R&R for a week, first thing I did was I called her and said, hey, I'm just back. And, she vaguely remembered who I was. And said, didn't we get together? I said, fine. So we did. Didn't take much time at all. So we got married on July 11th in 1964. So, that was when I was back in 64, 1964, July 11th. So it was kind of a quick, nice to get to know you, and let's go up the aisle to the altar here, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I told you that, your father was born while I was deployed overseas. Actually, our crew had just gotten on our airplane. We were at Naha Air Base on Okinawa. We had just gotten on a plane to take off for our patrol, which was going to end down in the Philippines. And the plane was taxied out almost to the runway when the tower told the plane to come back. There was an important message. So the plane taxied back, and someone come out, and they opened up the door, and someone handed up this message. And the crewman took it up and gave it to the patrol plane commander who's up in front, who happened to be the commanding officer. And he called me up, and he says, hey, this is for you. And he hands me this message, this Navy message, came over our military thing. So this came from the commanding officer of the base to our squadron. So in any case, and we still have that, physically have that message there, telling me that I am now the father of a son, and so forth. Everybody's doing well. But that just wiped me out. For the rest of that patrol, I couldn't get my mind on our work. My mind was elsewhere. And of course, they understood. So
yeah.
I just kind of became a piece of whatever in the way there on the patrol. So that was a memory that has never left me, and I don't think it's ever left Pat either. She was very taken with that. So, but we wanted them to be good people, and thanks to Pat, she was an outstanding mother. Really was, very outstanding mother. Just a natural for a mother. When David married your mother, I was sitting right up there in the front row of the church. And I was just overcome. I had tears running down my eyes. I was so proud. So proud. And then even with Michelle, she worked hard. She's a very hard worker, just like your dad has always been a very hard, conscientious worker. But she has succeeded. Both of my kids. I used to say my measure of success has been if I could both socially and economically be better than what I perceived my father was. And I think I surpassed him on both counts. It's not disparaging him at all, because I adore my father. But I felt that by my own bootstraps, I did better. And my two sisters, likewise, they have been very successful in their lives. Every once in a while, life dangles a carrot in front of you, and when they do, grab that carrot and make the most of it. And David and Michelle have done that, and that's given me a lot of satisfaction. Once I got going into my adulthood, I've been a very content man. I've been a very fortunate person. I've always felt very fortunate. Yeah. And I'm happy to still be alive at this point in time. I'm coming up on 78 years of age. I never thought I'd live to this age. My father died young, age 58. That's something that stuck in my mind for a long time. So yeah, to be here now and to still be in reasonably good health and be able to enjoy life now, yes, that was it. So
Okay.
I think we can end it right there.
All right. And I'd just like to say that thank you for sitting down and talking to me about this.
Well, I want to thank you for doing it because not just for me, in you, but sometime in the future, some other distant relatives, your kids, your grandkids, and say, well, hey, here's a great grandfather, a great great grandfather, and here's some things about. All we can do is read about some of these people now, but I have a few voices, tapes of voices, and it's amazing. So yes, the fact that you took the time to do this is good.